God, that was horrible. Why isn't NASCAR adding horsepower to the short track package? Plus, what is going on with the 2025 schedule, and where will the season finale be next year? It's not Phoenix.
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can they not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, he's going! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
It is a post-race episode of Shifting Gears not from Phoenix, obviously, but after the Phoenix race. Congrats to Christopher Bell, everyone at Toyota, and Joe Gibbs Racing for winning a snoozer of a race out in the Diamond in the Desert. We're going to go ahead and break it down. Plus, Andretti to NASCAR rumors. Oh, heard that before. NASCAR confirms talks with Dodger Stadium to race in Los Angeles for the 2025 season, potentially, if not 26. And where will the 2025 season finale or championship race be held next season? It's not Phoenix. We're going to go ahead and break it all down, including your hot takes. But before we get into it, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss an episode. And you can always log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Short track package still sucks. Who knew? And I need to kind of clarify this, and let's legitimately talk about this, and let me go on a little mini rant to start the show here. Is it the short track package, or is it just Phoenix sucking? It's a little column A, a lot of column B, though. I think it's more Phoenix sucking, admittingly, because looking at it, Jamie McMurray said it, racing at Phoenix hasn't been good since the mid-'80s. I mean, it's been over 40 years since we've seen good racing at this racetrack, sincerely, and NASCAR's reconfigured it. They've tried. They've made the facilities at Phoenix phenomenal, which is why we go there twice a year, because NASCAR's trying to pay for the multi-million dollars they've invested in that racetrack. And for the most part, it's worked, because this is, I think, the 6th or 7th race that has sold out at Phoenix. That is awesome. Great. Congratulations. Kudos to the Phoenix area. But they deserve better racing. We deserve better racing. And I know bringing up his name is going to instantly piss off a lot of people, but I don't care. Icy Vert is kind of how I'm gauging new fans right now, because he is a new fan. He's somebody who saw the Atlanta finish, and he immediately got into NASCAR and got really excited about NASCAR. And even he watched the race out in Phoenix this weekend and went, okay, this ain't all that. And he's right. The racing kind of sucked. Restarts were great, don't get me wrong, but that excitement and that 5-wide diving through the dogleg only really lasted for a couple of laps, and then for the other 300 plus laps out there. So no, I don't think Phoenix deserves a second race. I think the people of Phoenix deserve a second race, but not necessarily the racetrack itself. The on-track racing product is garbage at Phoenix, and it always has. NASCAR's tried to fix it. They really have. But honestly, I think we're in bulldoze and tear it up and do it again kind of territory. And maybe that's the answer. I don't want it to be the answer, but maybe that is the only answer. And luckily for Phoenix, from a reconfiguration standpoint, you can tear it up and add more banking. Now, you can't move the grandstands, obviously. You can't really move the infrastructure in the infield, but NASCAR planned ahead. When they redid the configuration a few years ago, they actually lowered the infield of the racetrack and actually brought the racetrack up a little bit, so to speak, so that people inside the racetrack could see the racing action, and so people in the grandstands wouldn't have obscured views of the racing. Kudos to NASCAR for planning ahead. Now go ahead and dig deeper and go ahead and put that inside. Just give us more banking around here, because that might be the only way to save this place. And sincerely, put a cone in the dog leg, and let's actually go ahead and put a no, don't go past this point kind of rule down there, because I am sick of 5-wide diving down there. I just raced the NIS race here on Sunday night, and I absolutely hated it. Every restart, guys on the outside, whoop, coming on down to the inside, and I just hated it. But we still finished 11th, even though we were in like a bajillion wrecks because people suck. But, you know, it's all the same. As far as the race we saw in Phoenix, the real race, Christopher Bell wins. Very dominant day for Toyota, honestly. Toyota brought this new nose out to this racetrack and tested it in the offseason, and they were extremely happy. Toyota executives were grinning ear to ear. Everybody at Toyota and Toyota teams were very excited for what they saw at this test in Phoenix during the offseason. And now we know why. They're good on short tracks. Toyota has figured it out. They got their first pole at a short track, or at Phoenix, I should say, this weekend, and Christopher Bell wins the race. And you had Denny Hamlin up there. You had Tyler Reddick up there leading a lot of laps. And yes, Fords looked good out there too. The Chevys looked okay, not great. And even Hendrick Motorsports acknowledged, yeah, we tried some things this weekend because we were off for the championship race last year, and clearly they missed the mark. I mean, looking at it, you look at Hendrick Motorsports, Chase Elliott finishing 19th. Oh, this guy was running top 3 at one point, and everybody was like, look, it's Chase Elliott's day. He's in the top 5 for the first time in weeks. Oh, can't wait. Yay. But then Chase Elliott did the Chase Elliott thing, didn't keep up with the racetrack changes, lost ground on the racetrack, and just faded. Somehow barely squeaks out of top 20. That's the season Chase Elliott's going to have. And to be honest with you, Chase Elliott went from that guy that was taking over for Jeff Gordon that had those kind of expectations on him to being the guy that won a championship. Kudos. Awesome. Good job, Chase Elliott. And now that he's won a championship, he's kind of falling into like that Casey Kane, or for the older generation, the Terry Labonte territory, where struggling to finish top 20 and just off, for lack of a better term. And Elliott was really excited last season for 2024, but this season so far, goose egg. I mean, we're 4 races in, don't sound the alarms yet, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing. They're still missing something. They've been missing something for a hot damn minute over there at Hendrick in the 9 camp, and it really doesn't make sense when the 5 and 24 are running very competitively and the 9 and 48 are not, for whatever reason. And it's kind of always been this way over at Hendrick Motorsports. We've never really seen more than one or more than 2 cars running phenomenally well at any given time. It makes no sense. It's not like there's only 2 good cars in the race shop over there at Hendrick, and the 5 car gets it this week and the 24 gets it next week. Yay. 9 car, 48, you don't get it. No. It's just the chemistry isn't there for whatever reason. They haven't found something that agrees with Chase Elliott, Alan Gustafson's style. Same with Alex Bowman in the 48. So maybe they'll turn it around, but I mean, finishing 19th, looking at my notes, finishing 19th, 14th for the 5, the 24 coming home 18th, and the 48 in 20th. I mean, that's just an abysmal day for Hendrick Motorsports and Chevy. On the flip side of that, though, there was some pretty good runs out of another Chevy. Kudos to Carson Hocevar in the 77, coming home 15th out there this weekend in Phoenix. This kid qualified top 10. He was running top 10 for a majority of the race, and right there at the end faded on the long run. But this guy legitimately is the best car over there at Spire right now. He is continuing to outperform his equipment. That is very impressive in my book. But looking across the board, the other big surprise that we need to talk about, RFK finishing second with the 17, Chris Buescher coming home second, and the 6 of Brad Keselowski coming home fourth. That is insanely good for this Ford team. Insanely good. And I'm the guy who said Brad Keselowski's in trouble. He needs to sound the alarm, and I still do believe that because I don't think he's going to win another Cup race. I'm going to go on the record now. I don't think he's going to do it because he is so distracted with everything happening off the racetrack, running RFK, running his side businesses, being a family man, that I don't think he has time to put it in the work as the driver, and I think that's very obvious with how good the 17 car ran last year, winning multiple races, and Brad Keselowski essentially being second fiddle at his own damn race team. So I just think something's off over at RFK. This gives me hope for a good run. It does help Brad in the point standings because he was in a hole at the beginning of the season, and he was in denial about that, but now 4 races in, he's looking a little bit better, but not in the playoffs at the moment on points, and that's something that in a couple of weeks, Brad should start sounding the alarm for. So we'll keep an eye on them or continue to. Shout out to Ty Gibbs coming home third. He was looking really good. I thought today might be the day for Ty Gibbs to get his first victory or at least contend, and he was there, but long green flag run right there at the end kind of did him in. You had the 12 of Ryan Blaney coming home 5th. Very similar run to what he had last time we raced out at Phoenix for the championship race in November. And honestly, he had the new Ford nose at this tire test and said in the tire test that the car handled almost identically. It was the same car with the exact same setup, just with the new body on it. And he said it was virtually the same and comes home with a top 5 finish. So clearly it is very similar for him. And that, I think, is a hint that things over at the Ford camp might just continue to be the same as they were in 2023. But again, gonna have to wait and see on that one. Shout out to legitimately to Stewart Haas Racing. I'm waiting for the penalties to come down because we all know it's gonna be just a matter of time before Stewart Haas Racing cranks out another couple of massive penalties. But so far so good this weekend out in Phoenix. The 14 of Chase Briscoe coming home 9th and the 10 of Noah Gragson coming home 12th. Respectable run for both of them. But once again, the 10 car qualifying in the top 10, running in the top 10, top 15 all day long finishes there. Noah Gragson and Chase Briscoe are the two top dogs over there at Stewart Haas Racing, and I think they're going to fight it out all year long to see who the better driver is, the better car is. I am not surprised in the least that the 10 car is running this good. Eric Almirola clearly was the anchor holding that race team back, and he's doing the exact same thing at Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity program right now. We'll talk about that on the Xfinity show. But honestly, keep an eye on Noah Gragson. He finds some good sponsorship. He really starts to gel with that team midsummer and on. He legitimately could be a threat for the postseason. And seriously, I see him going pretty far if he's continuing to run top 10, top 10, top 10. Eventually, those are going to turn into top 5s, and those will eventually turn into wins. I don't know. I'm just saying, keep an eye on the guy. Another Ford team that legitimately had a better day than Hendrick Motorsports out in Phoenix is Front Row. Again, their Tier 1 equipment from Ford has not kicked in yet. This is them on their old equipment and their old models, essentially. Coming home 8th with the 34 car and the 38 car coming home 17th. 38 car was leading some laps and running up in the top 5 for a good chunk of this race, not just because of pit cycles, but actually was holding his own up in the top 10. That is actually very impressive. We know that Todd Gilliland has talent. We know that he's been outperforming his equipment, but this is impressive when you're outrunning Hendrick Motorsports. Seriously, kudos to them. The big glaring issue that we have to discuss, and it's kind of pissing me off at this point, horsepower. Horsepower. It's the thing that the drivers have been harping on. I've been harping on it. The teams, owners, everybody's been saying it. The reason, at least on paper, the main reason that NASCAR does not want to give more horsepower to these cars is because they want to try to make the engines last longer so that these engines can be used at more races. So in the long run, at the end of the season, it will save these teams more money. At least that's what the excuse is on paper. At this point, Denny Hamlin, people in the media are saying all it takes is a single phone call to Doug Yates or anybody who's building these engines saying, hey, give it more horsepower. And virtually overnight, we can crank it up to, in theory, 800 or 1,000 plus horsepower. In theory. But will NASCAR do that? That's a Jim France thing, and he's kind of put his head in the sand lately when it comes to listening to teams and drivers. He's very much up in the boardroom, not really at the racetrack, sound familiar? And not really making good decisions, let's just say, when it comes to listening to the team owners, to the drivers, to the fans, to the media. He is gone kind of silent right now. He stopped talking with the teams, refused to meet with the teams over the charter agreement. He's not listening with these issues with the engine program right now. He's not really doing a whole lot with the short track problem, and arguably this probably wasn't the best showcase of this new short track program. We'll really know more at Bristol next week. After Bristol next week, everybody's going to be screaming from the rooftop, horsepower! I'm absolutely sure of it. And we will probably continue to see that argument for the weeks to come. By the way, it is that time of the year where Andretti to NASCAR rumors sprout up. I literally reported on this when I was in college back in like 2008. Oh, Andretti's thinking about coming to NASCAR. This is like literally a hollow threat at this point. I don't believe it. There was rumblings in the garage because Andretti was coming out against IndyCar and the fact that he thinks Roger Penske needs to sell the series because Roger isn't doing what he needs to do with it. But frankly, shut up. Like, if I'm Michael Andretti, just shut up. Like, this continues to be your threat. It's always been his threat for the last 15 years. Oh, I don't like IndyCar. I'm going to go to NASCAR. Oh, I don't like F1. I'm going to go to NASCAR. Like, it's just a hollow threat. It means nothing. Talk is cheap. Action actually matters. And his actions for literally the last 15 plus years have said he's not coming to NASCAR. I know, a lot of people want to see him in NASCAR. I think it would be extremely cool to see him in NASCAR, but it's not happening. Probably not in my lifetime anyway. By the way, Steve Phelps and NASCAR confirmed to the media this weekend that yes, those NASCAR to Dodger Stadium rumors are not rumors. There have been talks. There has been advanced negotiations on this. Whether or not that materializes in a race for the 2024 season with the Clash or the All-Star race, doubt it's going to be a point race. I don't think it's going to happen for 2025. It might happen for 26, but it would have to be the Clash at the beginning of the season because, frankly, Dodger Stadium is actually needed in the spring, obviously, when baseball starts in late March, early April. Another option, honestly, is Angel Stadium. I mean, they certainly don't use it in the postseason in October. Not that we want to race there in October, but you do have Supercross and Monster Jam that use Angel Stadium pretty much in the month of January, February, and a little bit of March. Again, nobody goes to Angel Stadium, so it doesn't really matter. But honestly, I do think that going to Dodger Stadium would be a really good move. I know you guys, some of you really hate it, and some of you are really down for it. We're going to get to hot takes later on in the show, but I'm open to it. Not just because I'm here in LA, but because I do think that it would open up it would open NASCAR to a bigger audience. Because believe it or not, the Coliseum and Dodger Stadium, even though it's like mileage-wise, they're not that far apart, they're virtually in other worlds because of how bad traffic is in Los Angeles. And I frankly think Dodger Stadium is a little bit more historic, a little bit more iconic in the LA area than the Coliseum, which is saying something because the Coliseum is significantly older. I do think that, frankly, getting the NASCAR blueprint in Dodger Stadium is going to be difficult, and I'm not just talking about the on-track product. Coupe Designs put out a really great concept that we showed in the last episode. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where do you put the garage? Where do you park these cars? Where do you have souvenir trailers and that area for the race fans? How does all of that fit into Dodger Stadium in, frankly, a very, very, very small footprint for just parking? That's something I didn't mention in the last episode, and I regret that. But we'll have to wait and see. I'd like to see it. I do like NASCAR going into stadiums and showcasing the Clash / maybe All-Star race in these Coliseums. I think it's very cool, but I do think they need to be non-points events. Jordan Bianchi on the Teardown podcast for Dirty Mo Media / The Athletic reported that he has been hearing rumors that Phoenix will not host the championship finale in the 2025 season. But instead, we could see that race return to Homestead, Miami for the 2025 season. And all I can say is, thank God! Yes! Because seriously, Phoenix sucks. Like, I love going to a race out in Phoenix. The on-track racing product is hot garbage. There is no way around that. It doesn't deserve the championship race. The only reason that Phoenix deserves the championship race is because the facilities at the racetrack, the infrastructure, meaning the grandstands, the parking area, the fan amenities, but also the media amenities, the garage areas inside the racetrack, everything around there screams championship, except for the on-track racing product. And NASCAR has sacrificed the on-track racing product for, what is this, the fourth year in a row this year in 2024 that we're going to Phoenix for the championship race just because they want to have good weather in a good area. Frankly, Phoenix is a rich white guy town. Like, there's no way around that. It's where all the rich people go because taxes are very lenient there and you can buy a lot of land for a little bit of money. And there's some big name sponsors in the Phoenix area. Kudos to them. Let's not let them determine where our racing champion is crowned. Maybe, just maybe. I'm just saying. I like Homestead, Miami significantly better. It put on phenomenal racing. It always does. Always has. Please, 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 always will. The weather, For the most part, decent. We haven't had issues, fingers, toes crossed, for the most part for the last few years out at Homestead, but the threat is definitely there compared to Phoenix. But I don't want to let money and sponsors determine where we crown our champion, and that's what NASCAR's done for the better part of the last 4 years. All right, favorite, best part of the show, whatever you want to call it. Let's go ahead and get to your hot takes, and there's some spicy ones, a couple that pissed me off. So we're going to go ahead and start with one that sincerely pissed me the hell off. Racing in the streets, that's just bank ice engines, but bless looting, homelessness, pooping in the streets and crime. Just crack off into the ocean and take Hollywood with ya. Why do you hate my people in my town? Is it because there's more people here in California than most of the flyover states put together? Like, why do you hate it? Is it because we have great weather? Is it because we have great food? Is it because we are culturally tolerant of other people who aren't just white? What is it? Sincerely, why do you hate my town? Yeah, it's not perfect. I'm from LA, born and raised, man. And I'm not saying it's the best city ever. No. There's other cities that are better than Los Angeles. Let me be perfectly clear on that. And I don't think because I'm from Los Angeles that I'm better from anybody else from any other place. Honestly, why the hate for Los Angeles? Why do you hate it so much? I know that there are people like Brett Griffin who really hate my town because, there are people of a certain minority here for the most part. And if that's the case, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry that you have that hate in your heart. I hope that you, see the error of your ways on that and give LA a chance because we got some damn good food. There's some pretty damn cool things to do in Los Angeles. And yeah, we've put on some pretty good racing out in Fontana, at the Coliseum, and probably pretty soon, Dodger Stadium. I'm all in for the Clash being at Dodger Stadium, and that concept design looks awesome. The only thing I'm worried about is how many cars this track can hold since it's smaller than the Coliseum. Clash is usually around 20 cars. This year it was 23, so I'm hoping to get at least that much. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I'm worried about capacity. I'm worried about it fitting in the footprint, but honestly, go back to winners and pole sitters only, or just pole sitters, and probably we're only going to get about 12 or 15 in there. And if that's the case, I'd rather see a great race with 15 cars than a meh race with 20 cars. And who knows, maybe we'll see that, maybe we won't. But we saw from 2023 to 2024, simply removing 3 cars from the racetrack significantly improved the racing on track at the Coliseum. So I think that if we stay to about 15 at Dodger Stadium, depending on the layout, depending on the format, could be significantly better. But we're going to have to wait and see if we even race at Dodger Stadium and if the deal gets done. The All-Star race should generally exist, but should be at tracks that they don't already go to, like Rockingham. First race back should probably be an All-Star race, for example. Listen, I've said this on the show. I think the All-Star race in NASCAR is extremely stupid, really stupid, because it started in the 80s as a way for NASCAR to connect with the non-sports fans and to add another event to Charlotte leading up to the World 600. But now it's stupid because the entire concept of an all-star race in motorsports is really dumb because guess what? Every single week is an all-star race. All of the stars are on track at once. If anything, the all-star race kind of diminishes the all-star quality of it because instead of everyone racing, it's only a handful. And yeah, there is something to only race winners doing it. That's why I sincerely think the all-star race and the Clash should combine into a single race and run pre-season. Call it the all-star race, get rid of the Clash, and make it so that only race winners and pole winners from the previous year and past champs of the All-Star race and past champions of the sport get into it. We started adding all these other things in it. Oh, all the playoff drivers are in it. Oh, all these drivers are in it. Because retiring aging drivers like Matt Kenseth, like Jeff Gordon, like Tony Stewart, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. were failing to meet these qualifications, and NASCAR really wanted them in the race. Go back to race winners, pole winners, past champs, and just do it at the beginning of the season. Do it once and give North Wilkesboro a points-paying race again. And while you're at it, give it to Rockingham too, because Rockingham would have put on a hell of a better show than we saw at Phoenix this weekend. I'm just saying. I'm pissed. You pissed me off because I just now remembered Rockingham doesn't have a date, and that sincerely pisses me off because we have seen phenomenal racing at Rockingham throughout the years, and we haven't seen a race on track at Rockingham in the Cup Series for over 20 years now, and that alone is pissing me off. I miss that racetrack. They just repaved it. They're working on the infrastructure around there. NASCAR is willing to put money into North Wilkesboro to bring it back to life. Awesome. Give them a point state, and while you're at it, give a little bit of money to North Carolina and to The Rock in order to bring that racetrack back. It's not hard, guys. Just do it, NASCAR. I'm just saying. Oh, you're pissing me off. I'm pissed off. Do me a favor. Go ahead and leave your hot takes in the comments down below. We will read them at the end of every show if my blood doesn't boil too much. And while you're there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you come back for the next episode. And of course, log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I'm pissed. I'm tired. I'm going to be back on Thursday with another Shifting Gears where we talk about the week that was news. And of course, we have the still unnamed NASCAR Xfinity Series show that's going to be on the channel tomorrow, Tuesday, with our kind of weekly wrap-up of everything that we saw in the Xfinity Series. So yeah, go ahead and come on back for that one. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We will see you at the track. Bye, Gearheads.